The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with excited voices. Representatives from dozens of alien species sat in their floating chairs, all talking at once. Today was the day they had worked toward for 20 years. Today, humanity would finally leave. Admiral Zexhai of the Chromery Federation stood at his full 8 feet of height, his blue skin shimmering under the artificial lights. His 4 eyes focused on the massive viewing screen that showed the edge of known space. Out there, human ships were gathering for their final departure. At last, Zexhai said to his aide, "The Chaos Makers are leaving." The aide, a smaller Chromery with nervous twitches, nodded quickly. "Yes, Admiral. The last human colony ship departed from Kepler 442b just this morning. They should all be gone within the week." Zexhai smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. For too long, humans had been a problem in the galaxy. They never followed proper procedures. They asked too many questions. They changed things that worked perfectly fine. Worst of all, they made other species think they could do the same. In the council chambers, Representative Yilmoth from Centauri Prime was giving a speech. The tall, thin alien spoke in a voice like singing crystals. "For generations, we have maintained perfect order in our galaxy. Every species knew their place. Every world followed the ancient protocols. Then came the humans." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Everyone remembered when humans first joined the galactic community 50 years ago. At first, they seemed harmless enough. They were curious about everything, but that seemed normal for a young species. The problems started small. Human engineers would look at ancient systems and say things like, "This could work better if we just move this here." Human doctors would ignore established medical procedures and try new treatments. Human farmers would plant crops in ways that made no sense but somehow produced better yields. "They disrupted everything," continued Yilmoth. "They questioned the wisdom of the Forerunners. They suggested improvements to technology that has worked for thousands of years. They brought chaos to our perfect order." The real breaking point had come 5 years ago. A human engineer named Marcus Rodriguez had been working on the Vegan Collective's main food processing plant. The plant had been running the same way for 800 years. It processed exactly the right amount of food for the planet's population, no more, no less. But Rodriguez had noticed that the plant wasted 30% of its raw materials. He made some adjustments. Suddenly, the plant was producing 40% more food with the same inputs. The extra food could feed millions more people across the sector. The vegan leadership was horrified. The plant was supposed to work exactly as the Forerunners had designed it. Changing it was almost like sacrilege. They demanded that Rodriguez change it back. He refused. "People are hungry," he had said. "Why would I make less food when I can make more?" That incident had sparked the movement to remove humanity from the galaxy. The council spent years debating and planning. Finally, they issued their ultimatum 6 months ago. Humanity had to leave known space entirely. They could keep their home system, but they were banned from all other worlds. Now, as Zexhai watched the last human ships disappear into the darkness beyond the outer rim, he felt a deep satisfaction. Order would return to the galaxy. The humans had not fought the decision. That surprised everyone. They had simply packed up their belongings, loaded their ships, and left. Some had seemed sad. Others had looked thoughtful, as if they knew something the council did not. Captain Sarah Chen had been the last human to leave council space. She commanded a small research vessel that had been studying ancient Forerunner artifacts on the edge of the galaxy. When the council's enforcement ships arrived to escort her out, she had been polite but quiet. "We understand," she had told the enforcement captain. "We'll go." "Good," the captain had replied. "Don't come back." Chen had looked at him with an expression he couldn't read. "We won't need to." As the weeks passed after humanity's departure, life in the galaxy began to return to normal. The council representatives congratulated themselves on solving the human problem. Trade routes that humans had disrupted with their strange cargo ships returned to their proper schedules. Planets that humans had influenced with their odd ideas started following the old ways again. But some people noticed small things going wrong. On Kepler 442b, the atmospheric processors that kept the air breathable started making strange noises. The processors were ancient Forerunner technology, built to last forever. They had never made noises before. The plant operators checked the maintenance logs. They found records showing that a human technician named David Park had been performing routine adjustments on the processors every few months. The operators had never authorized these adjustments. They hadn't even known Park was doing them. When they tried to figure out what Park had been adjusting, they found his notes written in a style that made no sense. Instead of proper technical language, he had written things like the humming sound means the third resonator is lonely, and give the primary coil a gentle tap if it starts. Sulking. The operators followed the official Forerunner maintenance procedures instead. The noises got worse. Similar problems appeared on dozens of worlds. Ancient mining equipment that had run smoothly for centuries started producing impure metals. Communication arrays that had never needed maintenance began dropping signals. Even simple things like air recycling systems started working less efficiently. In every case, investigators found evidence that humans had been quietly maintaining these systems. Not through official channels, but just because they saw problems and fixed them. Dr. Yilmoth, the same Centaurian who had celebrated humanity's departure, was assigned to investigate these maintenance issues. What he found confused him deeply. Humans hadn't just been following maintenance procedures. They had been having conversations with the machines. Rodriguez, the engineer who had improved the food processing plant, had left behind detailed logs of his work. Instead of technical reports, the logs read like diary entries. Day 47. The primary converter is acting up again. It's running too hot, probably because it's trying too hard. I told it to relax and gave it a 15-minute cooling cycle. It seems happier now. Day 52. Found a loose connection in Sector 7. Wasn't in any of the schematics, but the machine was clearly compensating for it. Fixed the connection, and thanked the system for its patience. Yilmoth read through hundreds of these logs from different human technicians on different worlds. They all wrote the same way, as if the machines were alive and had feelings. More disturbing was what happened when other species tried to copy human maintenance techniques. A Kramari engineer attempted to replicate Rodriguez's modifications to a food processor on another world. Following Rodriguez's notes exactly, the engineer made the same physical adjustments. The system promptly broke down completely. It was as if the machines would only work for humans. As reports poured in from across the galaxy, the Council began to realize they might have made a mistake. But it was too late now. Humanity was gone, disappeared beyond the edge of known space. Long-range sensors showed no trace of them. Admiral Zexhai stood in his command center, reading report after report of system failures. Each one was small by itself, but together they painted a troubling picture. It was as if the galaxy itself was slowly breaking down without humans to maintain it. He tried to push the worry away. These were just old machines finally showing their age. Other species could learn to maintain them properly. The galaxy had existed long before humans arrived. It would continue without them. But deep in his mind, a small voice whispered that something important had been lost. Something the Council didn't understand until it was too late. The galaxy was learning what it meant to live without humanity's chaos, and that lesson was more frightening than anyone had imagined. 3 months had passed since the last human ship disappeared beyond the outer rim. Dr. Yilmoth stood in his laboratory on Centauri Prime, surrounded by broken pieces of technology that should not have been broken. The atmospheric processor from Kepler 442b lay in parts on his workbench. According to every technical manual, every piece of Forerunner documentation, this machine should have worked perfectly for another 1,000 years. Instead, it had failed completely just 2 weeks ago. Yilmoth picked up a crystalline component that glowed with faint blue light. The crystal was cracked down the middle. He had never seen a Forerunner crystal crack before. They were supposed to be indestructible. Dr. Yilmoth, his assistant, a young Centaurian named Veltar, entered the lab carrying a data pad. "We have another report." Yilmoth set down the crystal and took the pad. As he read, his expression grew more troubled. "The mining station at Asteroid Belt Sigma 7. Complete shutdown," Veltar confirmed. "The processing facilities are producing nothing but slag. The miners say the equipment is working, but it's like the machines forgot how to refine metals." This was the 15th major system failure this month. All across the galaxy, ancient technology was breaking down in ways that made no sense. The failures weren't random mechanical problems. The machines seemed to be losing their ability to function properly, as if they were forgetting their purpose. Yilmoth walked to his wall display, which showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked every system failure reported so far. There were hundreds of them scattered across dozens of worlds. "Show me the human presence data," he said. The display changed, adding blue dots where humans had lived or worked. Yilmoth felt his heart sink. Almost every red dot had a corresponding blue dot. The systems failing were the ones humans had been maintaining. "Sir," Veltar said quietly, "there's something else. I've been analyzing the maintenance logs from these facilities. The humans weren't just fixing broken things. They were preventing things from breaking in the first place." Yilmoth turned to his assistant. "What do you mean?" Veltar brought up a holographic display showing data from a water purification plant on Vega 3. "Look at this power consumption pattern. For the past 30 years, the plant used exactly the same amount of energy every day. But if you look closer," the display zoomed in on the data. Yilmoth could see tiny variations in the power usage, little spikes and dips that formed a complex pattern. The human technician, a woman named Lisa Thompson, was making micro-adjustments every few days. She would increase power to one system while decreasing it to another. She was balancing the entire plant's operation in real time. "But why?" Yilmoth asked. "The plant was designed to run automatically." "That's what I thought too," Veltar said. "But look what happened when Thompson left." The display showed the last 3 months. Without Thompson's constant adjustments, the power usage had become perfectly steady. Exactly what the original design called for. But 2 weeks ago, the plant had started producing water with dangerous levels of contamination. The automatic systems were failing, Veltar explained. Thompson wasn't making random changes. She was compensating for gradual wear and environmental shifts that the original programming couldn't handle. Yilmoth studied the data in silence. Every Forerunner facility was supposed to be self-maintaining. They were designed to run perfectly for thousands of years without any outside help. Yet somehow humans had been providing help that was absolutely necessary. "Sir, there's more," Veltar continued. "I found video logs from several facilities. You need to see this." A holographic recording appeared, showing a human engineer working in a power plant control room. The man, according to his badge, was named Robert Kim. He was talking to himself as he worked, but Yilmoth quickly realized Kim wasn't talking to himself at all. "Come on." "Beautiful," Kim said to a control panel. "I know you're tired, but we need you to hold together for another few hours." He made a small adjustment to some controls. "There you go. Feel better?" The control panel's indicators shifted from amber to green. "I've seen dozens of recordings like this," Veltar said. "Humans talking to machines like they were alive. At first I thought it was just strange human behavior. But watch this." The recording fast-forwarded to show Kim leaving for the day. As soon as he was gone, the control panel's indicators slowly shifted back to amber. The next morning, Kim returned and had the same conversation with the machine. Again, the indicators turned green. "It's like the machines were responding to him personally," Velmoth said. More reports arrived every day. The agricultural worlds of the vegan collective were experiencing massive crop failures. Their irrigation systems, which had worked flawlessly for 800 years, were now watering some fields too much while others received no water at all. Investigation showed that a human farmer named Carlos Mendez had been manually adjusting the irrigation schedules every season. The automatic systems had been slowly drifting out of alignment with the planet's changing weather patterns. Mendez had somehow noticed this drift and corrected for it. Without him, the systems were following their original programming perfectly. The crops were dying because perfect was no longer good enough. On the industrial world of Titan 7, manufacturing plants were producing defective goods. The quality control system showed everything was within normal parameters. But the products kept failing when customers tried to use them. A human quality inspector, named Maria Santos, had been rejecting products that technically met specifications but showed subtle signs of potential failure. Her replacement, a highly trained Chromari engineer, could find nothing wrong with the products Santos would have rejected. She had no advanced sensors, the Chromari engineer reported to his supervisors. She just looked at things and somehow knew they would break. It makes no scientific sense. But Santos's rejects never failed in the field. The products that passed inspection after her departure had a failure rate of nearly 30%. The pattern was everywhere. Humans had been maintaining the galaxy in ways no one had noticed or understood. They fixed problems that hadn't yet become problems. They improved systems that already worked fine. They had conversations with machines that couldn't possibly talk back. Most disturbing of all, nothing worked the same way for other species. When Chromari engineers tried to copy human maintenance techniques exactly, the results were inconsistent at best and disastrous at worst. When Centaurian technicians attempted to have conversations with machines, the machines ignored them completely. Admiral HFY called an emergency council meeting. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered to discuss the growing crisis. The mood in the Great Hall was very different from 3 months ago. "The situation is becoming critical," HFY announced. "We have 7 major agricultural worlds reporting food shortages. 3 industrial centers have shut down completely. The communication network is experiencing failures we've never seen before." Representative Korthak from the Andromedan Union stood to speak. His species was known for their logical thinking and precise engineering. "Admiral, my people have analyzed the technical data from these failures. The conclusion is unavoidable. Humans were not just maintaining our systems. They were actively preventing a cascade of failures that should have begun decades ago." "What do you mean?" asked Yilmoth. "Forerunner technology is incredibly advanced, but it is not perfect," Korthak explained. "No technology is. Over time, even the best systems accumulate small errors, tiny inefficiencies, minor wear patterns. The original designers assumed these would be corrected by regular maintenance, but we follow all the maintenance protocols," protested a representative from Vega. "Yes, we follow the protocols perfectly," Korthak agreed, "but the protocols were written for ideal conditions that no longer exist. Environmental changes, usage patterns different from original assumptions, interactions between systems that the designers never anticipated. The protocols cannot account for everything." Korthak activated a holographic display showing the galaxy's technology network. Humans were providing adaptive maintenance. They were solving problems that the protocols couldn't handle. Without them, we are following instructions for a galaxy that no longer exists. The hall fell silent as the implications sank in. They had expelled humanity for being chaotic, for refusing to follow proper procedures. But those procedures were failing. "How long do we have?" HFY asked. "If the current rate of failure continues," Korthak calculated, "we will experience complete infrastructure collapse within 18 months. Sooner, if critical systems begin failing simultaneously. Can we contact the humans?" someone asked. "Bring them back?" HFY checked the long-range sensors. The display showed only empty space where human ships had disappeared. "We've been sending messages toward their projected location for weeks." No response. "It's as if they vanished completely." Dr. Yilmoth stood slowly. "There's something else we need to consider. Something that frightens me more than system failures." All eyes turned to him. "What if the humans knew this would happen? What if they understood our technology better than we do? Their departure was too easy, too quiet. Almost like they were waiting for us to realize something." The terrible possibility hung in the air. 6 months after humanity's departure, the Galactic Council faced their worst nightmare: the ancient Forerunner way station network. The backbone of all galactic communication was dying. Admiral HFY stood in the emergency command center, watching red warnings flash across dozens of screens. Each warning represented another communication node going dark. The network that had connected thousands of worlds for millennia was collapsing faster than anyone had thought possible. "Report," he ordered his communications officer. "We've lost 47 nodes in the past week alone," the officer replied, her voice tight with stress. "The network is trying to route around the failed nodes, but each failure puts more strain on the remaining stations. We're seeing cascade failures now." HFY felt his blood run cold. Cascade failures meant that when one node died, it would overload its neighbors, causing them to fail as well. The failure would spread like a disease through the entire network. How long until complete network collapse? At this rate? Maybe 2 months, possibly less. Without the communication network, the galaxy would return to the Dark Ages. Worlds would be isolated from each other. Trade would collapse. The very civilization they had worked for thousands of years to build would crumble. Dr. Yilmoth burst into the command center, carrying an armload of ancient data crystals. "Admiral, I think I know what's happening, but you're not going to like it." "Tell me," HFY said. "I've been studying the original Forerunner archives," Yilmoth explained. "The deepest files, the ones written in their oldest languages. The communication network was never meant to run automatically." "What do you mean?" "It's been running automatically for thousands of years. No, it hasn't. Yilmoth activated a holographic display showing network traffic patterns. Look at this data from the past 50 years. See these micro adjustments in signal routing? The tiny timing changes? The packet optimization protocols that aren't in any manual. HFY studied the display. I see variations, but they look random. They're not random. They're intelligent adaptations. Someone has been constantly fine-tuning the network to handle changing conditions. New planets joining the network, increased traffic loads, solar interference, equipment aging. The network needed constant optimization to handle all these factors. But who was doing it? The network operates itself. Yilmoth brought up another display, this one showing human settlements overlaid with network maintenance records. Every major network hub had human technicians working nearby. They were all doing what they called routine optimization work. The pattern was unmistakable. For 50 years, human technicians had been secretly maintaining the galaxy's most critical infrastructure, not through official contracts or council authorization, but simply because they saw systems that needed help. Show me the technical details, HFY demanded. Yilmoth pulled up maintenance logs from a human technician named Jennifer Walsh, who had worked at the Centauri Prime Communication Hub. Her logs were written in the same conversational style they had seen before. Day 1247. The primary router is getting overwhelmed during peak hours. Poor thing is trying so hard. Implemented a new load balancing algorithm that should help distribute the traffic more evenly. Day 1251. Solar storm activity is interfering with the quantum channels. The network is compensating, but it's working too hard. Added some predictive filtering to smooth out the interference. Day 1255. Traffic from the Vega sector has increased 15% this month. The standard protocols can't handle it efficiently. Created a custom routing solution that should reduce latency by 23%. This is impossible, HFY said. These optimization protocols would require decades of study to understand, let alone improve. That's what I thought too, Yilmoth agreed. So I tried to replicate Walsh's modifications. I assembled a team of our best network engineers and gave them 6 months to understand just one of her optimization routines. And we failed completely. Not only couldn't we improve on her work, we couldn't even understand how it functioned. The mathematics behind her algorithms use principles that don't exist in any of our textbooks. Veltar, Yilmoth's assistant, entered the command center at a run. Dr. Yilmoth, we've found something at the abandoned human research station on Kepler 186F. You need to see this immediately. They traveled to Kepler 186F in the Council's fastest ship. The human research station had been one of their most remote facilities, tucked away in an unremarkable star system on the edge of known space. The humans had been studying Forerunner artifacts there for over 20 years. When they arrived, they found the station intact but empty. The humans had left in an orderly fashion, taking their personal belongings but leaving their research behind. Veltar led them to the main research lab. What they found there defied explanation. The lab contained technology from dozens of different species and time periods. Ancient Forerunner artifacts sat next to modern Council equipment, connected by cables and devices that shouldn't have been compatible. Centaurian biocomputers were linked to Chromery quantum processors. Andromedan logic circuits interfaced with vegan organic networks. This should be impossible, HFY whispered. These technologies use completely different operating principles. Dr. Yilmoth examined the connections more closely. The human engineers had created custom interface devices, bridging technologies that had never been designed to work together. But more than that, they had found ways to make the combined systems work better than any of the individual components. A holographic display in the center of the lab activated as they approached. It showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy with thousands of connection points highlighted in different colors. What is this? HFY asked. Veltar consulted a nearby terminal. According to the research logs, this is a real-time map of all the technological interfaces humans had created across the galaxy. They weren't just maintaining individual systems. They were connecting everything together. The map showed a vast web of connections spanning the entire galaxy. Human-created bridges linked Forerunner networks with modern infrastructure. Species that had never been able to share technology were connected through human interface systems. They turned the galaxy into one giant network, Yilmoth realized. Every species, every technology, every system working together as a single organism. But now with the humans gone, the connections were failing. Without the constant maintenance and adaptation humans provided, the incompatible technologies were beginning to reject each other. The galaxy's technological ecosystem was falling apart. A new voice echoed through the lab's speakers. It was a recording left by the human research team leader, Dr. Michael Chen. If you're listening to this, it means the network is failing and you've finally realized what we were doing. We didn't mean to hide it from you. We just saw systems that needed help and helped them. That's what humans do. The recording continued. We discovered something you might find interesting. The Forerunners didn't disappear mysteriously. They left detailed records of what happened to them. They're hidden in the deep archives, accessible only when multiple critical systems fail simultaneously. Zexai felt a chill run through his body. What did they find? The Forerunners faced the same choice you're facing now, Chen's voice explained. They could maintain their perfect static civilization, or they could evolve. They chose evolution. They transcended their physical forms and joined something greater. But before they left, they designed their technology as a test. A test for what? To see which species would prove worthy of inheriting the galaxy. The test wasn't about following protocols or maintaining order. It was about growth, adaptation, creativity, the ability to make things better instead of just keeping them the same. The recording paused, then continued with what sounded like sadness in Chen's voice. For 50,000 years, every species in the galaxy failed that test. They used Forerunner technology exactly as designed, never improving it, never making it grow. Only humans passed. We couldn't help ourselves. We saw something that worked and immediately thought about how to make it work better. The Forerunners left us as the galaxy's caretakers. The recording concluded. We were meant to guide everyone else into the next phase of galactic evolution. But you didn't want our guidance. You wanted us gone. The recording ended, leaving them in stunned silence. Veltar checked the research station's sensors. Admiral, we're detecting massive energy signatures from beyond the galactic rim. Something large is approaching. Zexai looked at the sensor readings. Dozens of massive objects were moving toward their galaxy at incredible speed. Whatever they were bigger than anything in the Council's fleet. How long until they arrive? At their current speed? 3 days. As they prepared to leave Kepler 186F, Dr. Yilmoth made one final discovery. Hidden in the deepest files of the research computer was a message addressed directly to the Galactic Council. The message was simple. We told you we wouldn't need to come back. We were wrong. We will return, but not as the species you expelled. We are something new now, something the galaxy needs. We hope you're ready for what comes next. The galaxy had wanted humanity gone. Now they were about to discover what humanity had become in the darkness beyond the stars. The Galactic Council emergency session was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives from every species sat in their floating chairs, staring at the massive display showing the approaching fleet from beyond the galactic rim. The ships were still 2 days away, but their energy signatures were already overwhelming the Council's sensors. Admiral Zexai stood at the center of the chamber, his usual confidence replaced by barely controlled fear. Around him, the greatest minds in the galaxy struggled to understand what was happening to their civilization. The cascade failures are accelerating, reported Chief Engineer Korthak. We've lost 60% of the communication network. Life support systems are failing on 17 worlds. The situation is beyond critical. Dr. Yilmoth activated his holographic display, showing the results of his latest research. I've made a breakthrough in the Forerunner archives. When multiple systems fail simultaneously, it triggers access to deeper data vaults. I found records that have been sealed for 50,000 years. The hologram showed ancient symbols that seemed to shift and move on their own. As the Council watched, the symbols transformed into images that told a story older than their civilization. The Forerunners called themselves the Gardeners, Yilmoth explained. They didn't see themselves as rulers of the galaxy, but as caretakers preparing it for what came next. According to their records, they faced a fundamental choice near the end of their civilization. The images showed the Forerunners' great cities, their incredible technology, their perfect society. But something was wrong. Despite all their achievements, their civilization had stopped growing. They had reached a plateau, Yilmoth continued. They could maintain their perfection forever, but they could not evolve beyond it. They had become so focused on preservation that they had lost the ability to change. The Forerunner records showed heated debates among their leaders. Some wanted to maintain their static perfection. Others believed that true advancement required risk, chaos, the possibility of failure. The Forerunners who chose evolution didn't die, Yilmoth revealed. They transcended their physical forms and became something greater. But before they left, they designed their technology as a test for future species. Representative Velmoth from the Andromedan Union leaned forward. What kind of test? A test of worthiness to inherit the galaxy, Yilmoth answered. The Forerunners left their technology deliberately incomplete, not broken, but requiring constant adaptation and improvement. They wanted to see which species would have the courage to make their perfect systems better. The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. For 50,000 years, every species had treated Forerunner technology as sacred relics to be preserved exactly as found. They had followed maintenance protocols religiously, never daring to improve on perfection. We failed the test, whispered Representative Koldar from Vega Prime. All of us. Not all of us, Yilmoth corrected. One species passed with remarkable success. The display changed to show human modifications to Forerunner technology over the past 50 years. The improvements were subtle but profound. Humans had taken systems designed to last forever and made them grow, adapt, and evolve. Humans couldn't help themselves, Yilmoth explained. They saw technology that worked perfectly and immediately wondered how to make it work better. They treated Forerunner artifacts not as museum pieces, but as starting points for greater achievements. Admiral Zexhai felt sick as he realized the magnitude of their mistake. We expelled the one species that was worthy of the Forerunner's legacy. It gets worse, Yilmoth said grimly. I've found the deepest archive, accessible only when the galactic infrastructure approaches complete collapse. It contains the Forerunner's final message. The holographic display filled with an image of a being that was clearly Forerunner, but somehow more than the ancient records had shown. Its form seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, shifting between matter and energy. When it spoke, its voice resonated through the chamber with impossible harmonics that bypassed their ears and spoke directly to their minds. If you are accessing this message, your civilization stands at the same crossroads we once faced. You have maintained our gift, but you have not grown beyond it. The test has revealed which species possesses the spark of transcendence. The Council. Representatives sat frozen as the ancient being continued. We chose evolution over stagnation, growth over preservation, chaos over order. We became more than we were, but we could not make that choice for others. Each species must prove their worthiness through their actions, not their words. The image shifted to show humanity working with Forerunner technology, the countless small improvements and adaptations they had made. The species you call human has passed our test magnificently. They possess the divine spark of improvement, the sacred gift of making good things better. They are our chosen successors, meant to guide the galaxy into its next phase of evolution. Zexhai felt his legs give out. The humans they had expelled in disgust were the Forerunner's chosen heirs. But beware, the Forerunner continued. Evolution cannot be stopped, only delayed. The humans have been forced to evolve without guidance, in isolation beyond your borders. They will return, but not as the species you knew. They will have become something new, something necessary for the galaxy's survival. The message concluded with a warning that chilled every being in the chamber. If you have rejected the evolutionary spark, if you have clung to stagnation over growth, then the returning humans may not recognize you as worthy of salvation. Evolution is not always gentle. Sometimes it requires destruction before rebirth can begin. The hologram faded, leaving the council in stunned silence. Veltar, Dr. Yilmoth's assistant, ran into the chamber carrying urgent sensor readings. The approaching fleet has accelerated. They'll be here in 6 hours, not 2 days. Can we establish communication? Zexhai asked desperately. We've been trying all standard frequencies. No response. Dr. Yilmoth studied the sensor data with growing amazement. Admiral, These energy signatures don't match any known technology. The approaching ships seem to be manipulating space-time itself. This is beyond even theoretical Forerunner capabilities. What did the humans become out there? Someone whispered. The question hung in the air like a death sentence. The humans had been expelled as chaotic troublemakers. They were returning as something that surpassed even the Forerunners. Emergency reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Critical systems were failing faster than anyone could repair them. Worlds that had never experienced infrastructure problems were facing complete collapse. The technological foundation of galactic civilization was crumbling. We need to prepare for their arrival, HFY announced. All available ships to the galactic rim, maximum defensive posture. Admiral, Dr. Yilmoth said quietly, I don't think defense is the right approach. What do you mean? The Forerunner message was clear. Humans are meant to guide our evolution. Fighting them would be like fighting our own future. But they're not the same humans we expelled, protested Representative Koldar. The message said they've evolved into something new. What if they've become hostile? Yilmoth considered this. The humans we knew were never hostile, even when we treated them poorly. They left peacefully when we demanded it. They tried to help us even when we didn't want their help. That was before, HFY said. Evolution changes things. The Forerunners evolved beyond their physical forms. What if humans have evolved beyond their compassion? The question terrified everyone present. The humans had been strange but benevolent. But evolution could create monsters as easily as angels. As the hours passed and the approaching fleet drew closer, the galaxy held its breath. Everything they had built, everything they had preserved, everything they believed about order and civilization was about to be tested. The humans were coming home. But home might not recognize them anymore. In the deep archives of the Forerunner vaults, ancient systems activated for the first time in 50,000 years. Technology that had waited eons for the right moment began to awaken. The galaxy was about to discover that the test had been more complex than anyone imagined. The Forerunners had not just left a test for worthiness. They had left a trap for those who failed it. And the approaching human fleet was the key that would spring that trap. Evolution was coming to the galaxy whether its inhabitants wanted it or not. The only question was whether they would survive the transformation. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of known space like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral HFY stood on the command deck of the Council's flagship, watching his sensors struggle to comprehend what they were detecting. The ships were beautiful and terrible. They moved through space like living creatures, their hulls seeming to bend reality around them. Where Forerunner technology had been elegant and precise, human ships were organic and flowing. They pulsed with energy that felt alive. How many ships? HFY asked his sensor operator. I'm not sure, Admiral. The sensors can't get a clear count. It's like the ships exist in multiple dimensions at once. Sometimes we read 50 vessels, sometimes 500. Dr. Yilmoth stood beside the Admiral, his scientific mind racing to understand what he was seeing. The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases. They're not just using technology we don't understand. They're using physics we don't understand. As they watched, the human fleet began to slow. The ships arranged themselves in a perfect formation that somehow encompassed the entire galactic rim. It was as if they were surrounding the galaxy itself. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced. It's coming from everywhere at once. The signal is reaching every receiver in the galaxy simultaneously. Put it through. The main screen flickered, then filled with the image of a human woman. But she was not quite human anymore. Her eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire universes. When she moved, reality seemed to ripple around her. Greetings, Galactic Council, she said. Her voice was warm and familiar, but beneath it lay harmonics that spoke of vast power barely contained. I am Admiral Sarah Chen, speaking for humanity's return. HFY stepped forward. Admiral Chen, I am Admiral HFY of the Galactic Council. We need your help. Our infrastructure is collapsing. Our civilization is dying. Chen's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in those cosmic eyes. Yes, we know. We've been watching. The question is not whether we can help you, but whether you want the kind of help we can provide. What do you mean? You expelled us because we brought chaos to your order. But chaos is not destruction, Admiral. Chaos is the engine of growth, of evolution, of life itself. When you rejected chaos, you chose stagnation. When you chose stagnation, you chose death. Dr. Yilmoth activated his communicator. Admiral Chen, we've discovered the Forerunner archives. We know about the test. We know that humanity was chosen to guide galactic evolution. Chen smiled, and for a moment she looked almost like the human they remembered. Dr. Yilmoth, yes, we know you've been busy with the archives. We've been watching your progress with great interest. Then you know we made a mistake, HFY said. We were wrong to expel humanity. We're asking for forgiveness. Forgiveness? Chen's expression grew thoughtful. Admiral, you don't need forgiveness. You need understanding. When you forced us to leave, you didn't punish us. You freed us. The main screen split to show images of human colonies beyond the galactic rim. But these were not the ramshackle settlements the Council remembered. These were cities of impossible beauty, structures that seemed to grow rather than be built, technology that blended seamlessly with nature. We returned to our true home, Chen explained. You see, Earth was never humanity's origin point. We discovered that long ago. Humans have been exploring the universe far longer than your records show. When we were forced to leave your galaxy, we simply returned to where we came from. The implications staggered the Council. Humanity was older than they had believed, more advanced, more mysterious. Out there beyond the rim, we remembered who we really were. Chen continued. We evolved, we grew. We became what the Forerunners meant us to become. And now we've returned to fulfill our purpose, which is what? HFY asked. To save the galaxy from itself. Chen's image shifted, showing the approaching human fleet in greater detail. The ships were moving toward failing infrastructure points throughout the galaxy, positioning themselves at critical nodes in the communication network. Near dying systems around worlds facing collapse, you have a choice, Chen announced. You can continue clinging to your static perfection and watch your civilization die. Or you can accept evolution and let us help you become something greater. What would that mean? Dr. Yilmoth asked. It means embracing chaos as a force of creation, not destruction. It means accepting that improvement is more important than preservation. It means learning to see technology not as sacred relics to be maintained, but as living systems that must grow and adapt. The screen showed human engineers already working on failed systems throughout the galaxy, but they weren't simply fixing them. They were transforming them, upgrading them, making them into something new and better. Look, Chen said. The first restored communication node came online, but it was nothing like the original Forerunner design. It pulsed with organic energy, its signals reaching farther and carrying more data than ever before. More than that, it seemed to be learning, adapting to traffic patterns in real time. This is what the Forerunners intended, Chen explained. Not static perfection, but dynamic growth. Not preservation of the past, but creation of the future. Admiral HFY watched as human ships moved throughout the galaxy like antibodies healing a sick organism. Systems that had failed were not just repaired, but transformed into something greater than they had ever been. Why are you helping us? He asked. After what we did to you? Chen's smile was gentle but sad. Because this is what humans do, Admiral. We see broken things and we fix them. We see good things and we make them better. You expelled us for being chaotic, but chaos is just another word for change, and change is the only way anything truly lives. Across the galaxy, the transformation accelerated. Food production systems that had been failing began producing more food than ever before. Manufacturing plants that had shut down came online with capabilities that exceeded their original specifications. The communication network expanded beyond anything the Forerunners had designed. But more than that, the human engineers were teaching. They worked alongside alien technicians, showing them how to see systems as living entities rather than static machines. They demonstrated how chaos could be channeled into creativity rather than destruction. You're not just fixing our technology, Dr. Yilmoth realized. You're fixing us. We're helping you evolve, Chen corrected. The same way evolution helped us. But the choice to grow must be yours. We cannot force evolution on unwilling subjects. Representative Koldar from Vega Prime activated his communicator. What happens to those who refuse to change? Chen's expression grew somber. The universe has no room for species that choose stagnation over growth. The Forerunners learned this. You are learning it now. Those who embrace evolution will thrive. Those who reject it will become extinct. And if we accept your help? HFY asked. Then you become partners in the galaxy's next phase of development. The Forerunners transcended their physical forms, but they were alone when they did it. Humanity offers something different. We offer evolution as a community, growth as a partnership. The screen showed visions of what the galaxy could become, worlds where technology and nature existed in perfect harmony, civilizations that had learned to channel chaos into endless creativity, species working together not despite their differences but because of them. The old galaxy is dead, Chen announced. It died the moment you chose preservation over progress. But from its death something greater can be born. A galaxy that grows instead of merely persisting. A civilization that creates instead of merely maintaining. Admiral Zexhai looked around the command deck at his officers. He saw fear in their eyes but also hope. For the first time in months there was a future beyond mere survival. "What do you need from us?" he asked. "Stop trying to control chaos and start learning to dance with it," Chen replied. "Stop fearing change and start embracing it. Stop preserving the past and start creating the future." As human ships continued their work throughout the galaxy, something remarkable happened. The transformed systems began connecting to each other, creating a network that transcended the original Forerunner design. It was as if the galaxy itself was coming alive, breathing, growing, becoming something new. "Welcome to the next stage of galactic evolution," Chen said. "Welcome to a universe where good enough is never good enough, where perfect is just the starting point for something better." The old galaxy had ended with humanity's expulsion. The new galaxy began with their return, and for the first time in 50,000 years the universe was growing again. In the deepest archives of the Forerunner vaults, ancient systems recorded the moment for posterity. The test was complete. The worthy had been chosen. Evolution could continue. The galaxy had learned what it meant to live without humanity's chaos. Now it would learn what it meant to live with humanity's infinite potential for improvement, and the universe would never be the same.